This video is about routine. What I've decided to do is just go through my kind of content and just go over my notes in a video, just a bit of a loose thing where I just kind of reflect on different concepts, and then later on I'll refine that into like an e-course, an e-book. But for now, here's some value. So basically a distinction to make between routine and habit. A routine is something that's intentional and usually requires a level of effort, whereas a habit is less of a conscious act, something we kind of do without really giving too much thought, and I guess it's got to the point of unconscious competence. So when we do a routine, I think it's important to do something that's high certainty, but also a little bit of moderate certainty, which creates accomplishment. So let's think of, if we get up in the morning and every day for 1 year we have water, do yoga, meditate. After a year, if we've been doing the exact same thing, same intensity, duration, everything, we're going to get to the point where that's a habit, where we're not even thinking about doing it, it just happens. So that's why it's important to have a moderate certainty task. Let's say that's going deeper into the poses or adding more poses within that act, within yoga. That's going to take eventually, after doing that for a week or two, that pose will now go from moderate certainty to high certainty, which creates a sense of accomplishment. So I think a routine is important because we can use it to establish certainty and create momentum first thing in the morning or even at night. I think routine is important for morning and evening and sleep in particular, and we can kind of create types of routine throughout the day as well. And I almost see routine as a bit of an anchor just to kind of make our non-negotiables happen. So down the bottom, bring your attention to a little flow of, we've got an action, which is an act, obviously, a routine, which is a regular act, and then a practice, which is a regular skilled act. And that's what I think we should be looking at bringing to our routine, making it a regular skilled act, something that we can be skillful in doing, present, aware, intentional, and create a sense of accomplishment in our routine. If we're constantly bettering it, we're going to get many benefits from it rather than just doing it for the sake of doing it. So here we've got a little graph that I've drawn up where it shows our comfort zone and resistance zone. So basically in the center is our comfort zone, the known, what's certain. We've got neural pathways to support it. We're comfortable here. There's no resistance and no change. And then on the outside, we've got full resistance, the unknown, uncertain, no existing neural pathways, outside of our comfort zone completely, full resistance, full change, no certainty. And as we go out from our comfort zone in the first tier, it's 25% change. Resistance is low, but more than here. Certainty is high in what we're doing, and we've got strong neural pathways either associated with similar things or having been done before, so they just need to be re-strengthened, etc. As we continue outward from our comfort zone towards the resistance zone, things get more resistance, change is greater, certainty is less, neural pathways are less developed or strengthened. And then finally, thirdly, 75% change would equate to high resistance, weak neural pathways, low certainty, and finally, no certainty, 100% change, full resistance, no neural pathways. And so now if we keep this in mind when we're undertaking a routine, we don't want to go from our comfort zone to full resistance because that won't be realistic. what we need to do is find where our edge of capability is. Like for some people, it may be if we haven't done much change in that area for a while, going to 25% change and staying there until our comfort zone expands to here. The neural pathways have strengthened, our certainty has increased to complete, resistance is lowered, and we've adapted to the change. And now our comfort zone would be taking up this area, at which point we could then go to the next area, which would be low resistance. And that would allow us to cement in that routine. So with that being said, I think it's imperative to make your routine enjoyable. Don't try and, just be like, I need to get back into routine. I need to do everything that I was doing when I last did it because that was perfection. Because now what you were last doing could actually be in this high 75% change from where you are now. And so if you try and do what you were doing, you might find that it's unsustainable and you just drop back to what's comfortable. So be realistic with where you're at, know where you want to get to. That's fine to draw the intention to do it, but keep in the enjoyable phase. So I believe it's important to make the initial part of a routine a habit. So like really lock it in. Maybe you could get up, make your bed, drink water, do a form of exercise, something that's like walking that would be quite easy to do a succession of, and don't have to think about too much. Really, when establishing a routine, especially a morning one, high certainty is key, especially when getting back into routine. So it's also beneficial, as aforementioned, to factor in a practice that gives a sense of progression and accomplishment. Resistance exercise, you can deepen the practice, meditation, yoga, all of these things you can continually expand your growth in, and that's going to give you a sense of progression and accomplishment. So if you make your routine enjoyable to begin with, you'll continue to do it. That's pretty obvious, but many of us don't. And if you begin within your comfort zone and progressively push towards your edge, your resistance zone, then you can make your comfort zone. Okay, just scratch that. I don't know what the fuck I was trying to say then. Then make it your comfort zone. You will quickly create a strong routine. We're way off track. And this is why you shouldn't read off slides. Cool. Morning routine. So let's focus in on this more. Basically, in my opinion, a good morning routine starts with a good evening routine. When you wake up fresh and you've got energy, you're not tired, you're going to be able to commit to a routine. If you've gone to bed late and you're like, yep, today's the day I start, and your alarm goes off at 6, you're like, I'm not feeling it, and go back to bed. So on the left, these are my tips for a good morning routine. Wake up the first time your eyes open and try and get up quicker and quicker each time. If it's taking you 10 minutes to get out of bed, get that down to 5. If it's taking you 5, get down to 1. Take you 1 minute, get down quickly as you can. Just, it benefits you a lot and it'll get your morning routine kick-started. I like to make my bed as soon as I've woken up, drink 500 mils of water in my case, but obviously don't use that if that's not appropriate for you. I move my body during my wake-up phase, so yoga's great because I can just go into child's pose and not fall asleep, but still have benefit on my body while resting. I aim to generate my internal fire, my momentum, my energy, my power with yoga or resistance training, and just kind of get that energy really flowing. And then I focus my mind with yoga, tai chi, and meditation, even a cold shower. I have static habits that are those, pretty much most of those mentioned there, but a little bit of flexibility in there depending on how I feel on the day. I create default options, so I know that 6 until 7 a.m, for example, is my exercise time, and within that I can do resistance training, yoga, tai chi, whatever I feel like, go for a run. I always aim to achieve 5 things within the shortest time possible from waking while remaining present. that builds your sense of momentum and decreases uncertainty. If you get up and you're like, oh, what should I do? Should I do this? That really kills your energy and productivity later in the day from that first part of the morning. I feel that the first 5 minutes of waking determine the next hour, and then that hour determines the rest of the day. So it's always important to be aware of what action you're taking and be aware of the next, but don't focus on the next, be present. So let's have the bottom. So basically we've got awake, deep sleep, alert, lethargy, and cortisol spike here. So from 5 a.m., somewhere around there, usually we would have a cortisol spike if our circadian rhythm is acting appropriately. Now, let's pretend we're used to going back to sleep, so we go back to sleep here. But the thing is, you can see our cortisol's up a bit more, and we're still a bit more awake and alert than we should be in deep sleep. So right now, we're going back to sleep, and that creates a bit of a negative feeling, I've found for me personally, where we feel lethargic and fuzzy, where basically it doesn't prime us for productivity whatsoever. When we have that morning wakefulness and then we go back to sleep, it tends to drag out our energy, and that's when we could see ourselves being more alert at 9 p.m. later in the day than continuing the cycle where we're now not getting quality sleep. Whereas what could happen optimally is our cortisol spikes and then slowly tapers off by the end of the day, bringing us down to full lethargy in time for bed. That would be optimal. So let's bring ourselves to evening routine, where what would be optimal is we have an evening routine that brings us to a point where our stress is down, our momentum's down, and we can just be ready for bed as soon as tiredness hits, and we're in bed and have a deep sleep until that waking point. Now, what often happens is we're not prepared to go to sleep when tiredness hits. We might still be doing stuff. So tiredness hits, but we remain awake, and then we get to sleep. But you can see that we didn't actually get to the depth of sleep we could have if we'd been prepared for that first wave of tiredness. Because here, we're trying to stay awake because we can't go to sleep while we're still moving around, obviously. And I feel, for me personally, that stops me getting to the depth of sleep I could have if I was ready for bed at that point. And not to mention, we've shortened our time. See, there's potentially hours, however long it would be, that we've taken off our sleep, because usually we're pretty well set to wake up at the same time. And that flows into the previous slide's point. So a good evening routine will bring down stress, give you clarity and peace within yourself. I like to create space in the evening where I'll just, sit by myself and just kind of enjoy my energy. I'll feel the day's events and images flick through my mind, emotions process. And once you've kind of got that stuff out of the way and take away the feeling of what needs to be done, then you can actually do what you feel like. Sometimes we're in momentum, we're like, oh yeah, I've got to do this, I've got to work. And then you actually sit down and you rest for a minute. And you're like, actually, I feel like eating and going to bed. So that's what I mean by creating space. When we can get a quality night's sleep, that's going to lower stress from, let me start again. When we've lowered the stress bar and we've got lower cortisol going to sleep, that's going to give us a better night's sleep. So we want to promote sleep hygiene, dinner at appropriate time, going for a walk after dinner, aiding digestion and kind of promoting that stillness and space for self. Definitely creating space and self in an evening wind down before bed, and enjoying your own energy definitely is, I would say, essential to reach a point of quiet and comfort within yourself. Nothing stimulating the mind, letting thoughts flow during this time, observing them, giving them attention, because when you do that, it stops them flooding the mind when we try and go to bed. Process emotions, as I previously mentioned. Reduce water intake. I've previously drank a lot of water, and it can be an issue going to bed and then needing to get up throughout the night, because that does have a fairly negative effect on your overall well-being. So being conscious about your water intake after 6-7 p.m. and potential supplementation. I think magnesium is beneficial for everyone, but zinc and magnesium, ZMA, can be quite beneficial for guys in particular, and to get a deeper sleep. So a sleep routine, a little bit more on that. Dinner between 6 and 7 p.m. is ideal. That if we have dinner too close to bedtime, it can have us committing energy to digesting food, and it does seem to affect sleep quality. There's some studies show that having 3 hours after eating will start to increase human growth hormone, which aids sleep quality. So going for a walk and meditating after dinner, 8 p.m. onwards, wind down, no stimulation, perhaps stretching or audiobook. 8:30, prepare for bed. Do your personal hygiene stuff. With the shower, I always shower before bed, and I like to actually have either a hot, cool, or cold shower depending on where my own thermal temperature is. Like if I'm feeling really hot and like fired up, I'm going to have a cold shower. If I'm feeling like I'm already a bit cold, I'm going to have a hot shower. Common sense, but sometimes we can follow like other people's routines and not really critically analyze what we need. 9 p.m. I'll get into bed. I might have a supplement. I'll do either meditation or reading until my first wave of tiredness hits, and then I'll go to sleep. And I'll track that with a sleep cycle app on my phone. I aim to have a consistent sleep bedtime each night within 30 minutes. For me, 9:30 to 10 is optimal, and it's good to establish practices that lead to having energy but feeling ready for bed. So what I mean by that is it's good to do, say, meditation of an evening. You still retain your energy. You're not going to sleep when you're doing it, but you're feeling rested for bed. Versus when you watch TV, that can really lower your energy prior to sleep, and that almost tricks your body into thinking sleep's begun, and that definitely has a big negative impact on your sleep. So you'll know the tick of approval when you've got this right, because you'll get into bed and you enjoy the comfort and the feeling of the experience of just being in bed. So definitely the intent is to get that feeling, and you can do that by reducing cortisol, reducing the stress bar to 0 before bed. So let's take a look at how a morning routine might look. You want to really bring 3 keywords: certainty, flexibility, enjoyability. So I'll have a wake up routine where I get up first time waking up, drink water, make bed, do yoga, and that's my static baseline habits, if you will. And then I'll have a phase of increasing momentum, and so this could be done through yoga at this point, or resistance training, or cardio. I sometimes do all 3, and sometimes just do 1, because the intention is to increase momentum, and perhaps doing yoga wasn't enough. And then if I do resistance training, I might still feel like, no, I want to build momentum more, and then I'll do cardio. So pick 1 and just do it, because for some person that's not been particularly active, going for a walk might be enough to increase their momentum. And then after increasing my momentum, I'll balance my momentum. So I've kind of like revved it up, and then I want to like bring it back to a balance point where I'll either go for a walk and just enjoy that, a bit of leave my phone behind and just kind of enjoy a walk, and even a cold shower if I'm feeling particularly fired up. That will be a good way to bring focus and clarity and balance my momentum. After that, I'll do my focus mind phase, where I'll do either meditation, Wim Hof breathing, or Tai Chi, and then I'll start my day's routine by having breakfast and going for a walk. And that's kind of my next baseline. So you can see I've sandwiched in my routine between two static baselines of habits. So my waking up routine is a habit and my starting day routine is a habit. And in here, this is where I have the moderate certainty stuff that gives me a sense of accomplishment. So we can go deeper into that where I've actually got intents. So for each thing, you know, yoga is to wake up gently, raise energy. It's good for my mind, body, and spirit. The ways I can deepen it is through poses, the number of poses, and the depth of which. And most of the others are intensity and duration. And you can see here that I've just brought in a way to have an intent for what I'm doing. Every action needs to have a meaning, purpose, intent, and it's good to have options and variability for deepening it and getting that sense of accomplishment. So you can see as far as options go with the wake up routine, there's none. The options with the start day routine, which should be shown here, is minimal. So that's because they're habits and these are routines. And basically, even a habit can still be done with purpose. Certainty and momentum is what's going to be achieved here. And that's the difference between something taking your energy and giving your energy, having an intent for what you do, being present. Now, if you really want to get into it, this is the way my mind works. I'll have my wake up routine here, and then depending on my energy level, I'll either do, if it's low, I'll do something low intensity like sun salutations, a walk, or if it's high, I'll do something more intense like vinyasa, and then I'll look at my certainty level and I'll go, okay, it's low, I need to do these practices to raise it, or if it's already high, I can skip this and just get ready to go into my workflow my workflow routine. So the way I kind of structure my routines and habits is to have, let's just pretend there was a wake up phase here, then routine building, then self-care, then building momentum again, but this is more like clarity of day and certainty, and then my workflow begins here. So spatio awareness, I haven't touched on that yet, but basically that's a method I developed to give myself awareness of my surroundings and eliminate distractions while I was working at home. Basically, if you've ever worked at home and you've noticed that you see something on a desk, you see stuff that's untidy, it robs your energy because you're getting distracted. You're looking at it going, fuck, that needs to be done. And I've created a system to overcome that. So I'll share a link to that. Direction Planner is also another thing I've created to keep track of what needs to be done during the day. The intent for that is by the end of it, you should be able to go, what am I working on today? And answer it. And once you've got those things mapped out, you put them into the calendar, and then you've got a schedule to follow for the day. So there we are. That's routines. Basically interested to see what you think about that. Again, apologies, that's not as well put together as my normal stuff, but in the interest of time, I'm just making it happen, and it'll be much more presentable in either an ebook or e-course form. So hit me up if you're interested in that, and if you want to learn more, do message me through social media, chi.net.au, or find me on Instagram at chicoaching111. Cheers, guys. Jezza out.